Welcome to the Deep in State presented by 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲. I am your host, Nick Hawks. On today's episode, we got DNB Wizard, one of the longtime supporters of the ATOR community. This episode is sponsored by 𝐒𝐮𝐻awks and Associates, the most experienced DePIN consultancy in the space. We help projects develop strategy, messaging, and token incentives. We'll have a little bit more on us later in the show. Before we get started, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, smash all the buttons, all the stuff that helps us keep bringing great guests like DNB to you. DNB, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Thank you, Nick, for having me on. It's great to be here. I've seen all the work that you and Max do in the space, so it's really a pleasure to be able to chat to you formally.
Right on. Yeah, I'm psyched. You've been super helpful to me in understanding ATOR, and I thought that's probably where we should start with folks. Can you tell me what is ATOR for someone that doesn't know anything about it?
Yeah, so ATOR sort of was born out of a necessity. The internet infrastructure that's in place at the minute, which everyone enjoys, is sort of broken by default in the sense where your privacy is at risk. There's ever increasing government surveillance and intrusive sort of spying that goes on in the US and Europe, all over. I think the Snowden leaks really brought it to light. That was well over 10 years ago. And I think my own personal journey as someone who's rolled out several internet providers across the world, I was always shocked at the mass surveillance that often legally ISPs had to enforce, such as capturing metadata and things like this. So there's been a lot of progression. Really, people are using VPNs, but what they don't realize is your VPN just has all the data, and often that is given up or sold. So ATOR essentially was a fair launch project, meaning it started with no VC backing. It launched on Ethereum just over a year ago, and that was really beneficial for, like, VCs tend to get really good deals. They tend to dump on retail once their vesting periods is over, and people are fed up with that. So ATOR, although it has institutional support now, it's built an organic retail community. So what ATOR is doing is it is utilizing onion routing, which was first made popular by the Tor project, which many of your viewers may or may not know. So it's utilizing existing open source and industry standards. I always get nervous. I love innovation, but I always get nervous when people try to mess with world-renowned standards, especially when it comes to privacy and encryption. So that's what I really trust about ATOR. It's utilizing the same technologies within VPN tunnels, but it's just delivering them in a decentralized manner, which makes it, in my opinion, a lot more secure. So ATOR has forked the Tor network, and it is utilizing physical nodes and virtual nodes to grow and scale, hopefully not just the largest onion network in the world, but hopefully one of the largest networks in the world. It's creating this essentially decrypted VPN. You'll be able to access the normal internet. You'll be able to access this encrypted cloud, think of it, ecosystem. And for non-technical users, hardware is being mass produced, which will allow you to have a plug-and-play relay node and earn passive income via ATOR tokens, but it'll also allow you to route and protect all your network traffic, not just using a web browser or like a laptop application. That being said, there is developers working on ATOR software for your laptop. There'll be an SDK for developers and other projects to incorporate ATOR technology into their application stacks and also route their traffic and enjoy the benefits of the ATOR network.
Love it. Love it. And you've spent a lot of time explaining this to me because I didn't know much about it at all. So my kind of half knowledgeable explanations may not help here. But when you were explaining to me, it really, the visualization that I had was it's as if you enter into this like giant soap bubble. Like you pop into the bubble, and once you're in the bubble, you're totally private. You can pop out the other side and not look at all like when you popped in. And so you can browse the internet super privately by going through this little soap bubble or this mini ecosystem. And especially if there are other occupants or entities inside that bubble, kind of no one can know what you're doing, or it's very, very difficult to know what you're doing. So it provides this layer of privacy that most of us might think is there, but actually isn't. Your ISP or almost whoever they want can spy on you pretty easily unless you're using one of these. So before I found ATOR, I think like a lot of people, you use whatever Nord or Express or whatever the VPN is. How is ATOR different than a lot of these VPNs? You touched on it briefly, but I want to make sure we open that up a little bit.
Yeah, look, a lot of good progress has been made. I mean, 10 years ago, if you told someone you're using a VPN, it might actually raise eyebrows. Also, the configuration process, it wasn't as straightforward as it is now. ATOR is different because a VPN, when you click connect, and let's say you connect to your server in New York, it creates an encrypted tunnel from your house network to that data center in New York. So it does mean your local and regional ISP cannot see what you're doing, but then all that data, all your traffic just enters this New York data center, and that VPN provider can see everything, like everything. So it's actually just really the same. And we always see VPN providers say they don't keep logs and stuff, but the reality is they more than likely do, because if people use those services for malicious things, their internet provider will just cut them off. So they always keep logs. And, we're not encouraging people to do malicious things at all. We're completely legally compliant. The protocols that ATOR is using is fully open source and audited, follows all GDPR and compliance and things like that. So we're not encouraging that at all. We just want to give people back their privacy. People say, oh, why do you care about privacy? I just say, well, show me your DMs, or even worse, let me look at your internet browsing history, which mine's clean. I don't know about you, Nick.
Pretty clean, yeah.
Yeah, pretty clean. So ATOR, from a basic and retail user's perspective, you could think of ATOR as a decentralized VPN, because it basically spins up. There's different routers in the network. Every time it goes through a router, it's creating a VPN tunnel and changing the source IP address. And then so it bounces around the network. And then when you leave the ATOR network to go onto the clear web, it's a thing called an exit node. But these change all the time. These are fully decentralized. They're not controlled or governed by a single entity. Yes, in the past, we have seen bad actors run like malicious exit nodes where they would try to do man-in-the-middle stuff, this and that. But the reality is the internet these days is like HTTPS and this and that. So it's hard to sniff encrypted traffic. That being said, mechanisms are in place to get rid of malicious actors. So I think the easiest way to think about ATOR, it's a fully decentralized VPN that also, once you're connected to it, not only can you browse seamlessly the clear web, you can also access the ATOR soon-to-be ecosystem. I think Tor made that famous. Tor, the project, everyone's sort of heard of Silk Road and the dark web, this and that. ATOR is cleaning up that image. It's privacy, not secrecy. It's sort of, I think that is actually, not to be too paranoid here, but I think they want you to feel bad about privacy. They want it to make people raise eyebrows. It's in the powers that be's interest that you are not encrypting your traffic. So I think that's almost like a, propaganda.
Yep. And we had a great analogy in one of the ATOR calls where it's like when you go into your house, you pull the blinds down when you want to be private. And this is the same kind of thing. You pull the blinds down, you can do whatever you want in your own house. That's your business. And it shouldn't be open to the world that someone can just come up to your window and kind of peer in and see whatever they want. You should have the ability to close the blinds and to provide privacy. And that's what ATOR does. That's been super cool. I think the other thing that I've seen that the ATOR team just does exceptionally well, there's a couple things, is they move really fast. They resource the right aspects of the project. So across the project, they're like, all right, we need hardware. We need this technological expertise. We need folks who know how to explain what we're doing, because what we're doing is really technologically complicated. And then they've got folks like you, and you've kept the community. I think the ATOR community, the ATOR not community, is one of the most positive that I've ever found across crypto. So I'd love to know what you think some of that secret sauce might be from your end.
Well, from my perspective, we a lot of us were there from quite early, but the whole stealth launch, fire launch model that's on Ethereum, and that basically means projects implement a sell and buy tax. It means they don't have to give up a large amount of supply to VCs and this and that. That really helps you resonate with retail. But beyond the token, and I think VCs are starting to see that a little bit, and and I think that always comes out in bear markets, but I think beyond the tokenomic side, I think it's just really the utility resonates with so many people. It's exciting to be around. How many DeFi platforms do you need? How much, people just tend, and no disrespect to builders out there, but a lot of people are just building vaporware, and then once it goes live, no one uses it. I think the mission that ATOR is you know, like undertaking. And I think just the it's exciting. The community, it reminds me of like the Pirate Bay days or the Anonymous days or this or that. Everyone's excited, everyone's buzzing. It's a
Yeah.
real throwback to what Web3 was meant to be. It's a very diverse community, as the ATOR team is very diverse as well. And I think it's just resonates with so many people with different backgrounds. And I think just there's a DePIN's more like this. DePIN has a level of maturity in it, right? Compared to like the meme coin community. That's not to
Sure.
say there's not a load of degens. I'm probably one of the biggest degen out there, but I think it's technical, it's semi-professional, and I think it's not ego driven. And I think that comes down, like, I always say the fish rots from the head. The team is the team, like you say, if they're not experts in something, they get the experts in. There is no egos, there is no narcissisms. No one, like narcissists, no one thinks they're God. I think if builders or projects get egos, that's how you get wrecked.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've just done such a good job of making sure I mean, as silly as it sounds in this kind of hardware technological engineering world, is you've had this, and also with your background on the network side, you've just had this really sharp focus on making sure people feel welcome and understood what's going on without being too touchy feely, just saying like, hey, everybody started somewhere here, wherever you start, you're welcome here. And here's how the whole thing works. I think you've done a really, really good job with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm psyched on it. Okay. Now we've been saying ATOR, there's been this recent rebrand to anyone. Are you pretty psyched on that? Do you have any thoughts on that? I think that's where we'll wrap this thing up. Is I know this will be, go out and be a little bit confusing. Like, oh, is it ATOR or anyone? It's going to be anyone. Where do you stand on this whole thing?
Yeah, well, for me, I want mass adoption, right? And I think ATOR, who, yes, they are renaming to anyone. I'll dive into that second. They are, like, we see lots of people building stuff and then, like, people don't use it. It has to start at the end consumer experience. And I think developing sexy looking, easy to use, plug and play hardware is a really way to onboard non-technical users. And of course, having a well-written SDK with lots of libraries attracts developers, and having virtual machines attracts like the techs. So I think to get that mass adoption, you got to hit all those like nails on the head. But then like really where I envision this going, a lot of other people do, it's getting that enterprise support. Now, the ATOR being associated with Tor, there was a dispute there because we believe that node operators should be paid. Tor does not. This has been going on for 20 years. But for me personally, I think anyone is great because it gets away from this dark web thing. It gets away from a web browser only non-profit thing. I want to go into the enterprise market. I want to smash the Web 2 market. I want to disrupt the VPN market. We want to take over the Web 3 retail market. So you got to hit all these angles. So anyone gets rid of that unfortunate stigma that onion writing has regarding dark web, deep web, this and that. And can you imagine, like, okay, let's say we're working for a blue chip FTSE 500 company or whatever, and we go into the board and we say, hey guys, we want to replace our existing VPN infrastructure with dark web, right? You can't do that, right?
No.
But if you have anyone which is a clean, minimalistic branding that utilizes the same open source industry standard technologies, IPsec suites, AES 256 encryption that's trusted and used by militaries, governments, banks, right? I actually think that it's an easier sell. And we always see this fight between Web 2 and Web 3. And it's always a bit tricky. People in Web 2 are rightly so, probably paranoid about Web 3. And people in Web 3 live in like a bubble that Web 2 just doesn't compute. So we want to bridge that gap. So I'm very happy with the name change. I think with anything, uncertainty people don't like, but my experience with the team is every change is carefully planned, clinically executed, and always well received. So as always, if there is any doubts or whatever, many of us just jump on a call and we all just talk it out, and then any concerns are always fed back to the team who respond accordingly.
Yeah, no, they've been so good. It's been such a joy to work with them and just see how fast they execute and how willing they are, as you said earlier, to bring in expertise. Well, we could probably talk for hours about anonymity and what's going on the internet and how all this stuff works. We'll have to have you back on. But DMB, thanks so much for making the time today to tell us a little bit about ATOR.
My pleasure, and it's been great getting to know you and Max.